It's good to be back. I was doing a bunch of things for a couple of weeks, and that led to, bumping Brain Tech Support Live back for a while. But it's good to be back at it. I was at a meditation retreat, and then there was a week where we did a workshop in Istanbul. It was really amazing to get to see some community members, and a fantastic opportunity when I was doing the meditation retreat to just sit and be in silence. There's something I wanted to share from the meditation retreat before we jump into the mental health and fitness and recovery adventures. Minchi, hi, it's good to see you. Welcome. I was just going to share about something I noticed at the meditation retreat at night. And this is kind of not really related to meditation. I think maybe something that people are noticing around the world at night during the meditation retreat. Sometimes, if there was an opportunity, I would do walking meditation. Much of the time it was rainy and very cold, but on a few nights it was clear. And I would do a walking meditation circuit around the Chan Hall and some of the grounds. And there would be just amazing stars lighting up the night sky. And I would do this walking meditation because when the brain would start to kind of maybe run off more eagerly at the end of the day, or just be flipping back and forth between things, as I was doing some useful work in meditation, doing some different things than I'd done before. And so the brain always pushes back with that. So then often I would do some walking meditation to just practice keeping the mind with me. I always think of it as like walking a dog. So when I'd be doing that, I'd take the dog for a walk and look up at the stars when there was a chance. And there were beautiful stars. This was at a Chan Center in Croatia in a national park. So we're out, up on a mountain in the forest. And you could see the constellation Orion, often right behind the Chan Hall. And one of the nights when I was out walking my brain puppy in the dark with the stars overhead, I saw the constellation of Orion, and there's the belt and Orion, and then I saw a blinking light pass through the belt. That's not that strange, right? You see airplanes and satellites, space stations, things like that. But then almost immediately after, another blinking light followed right in the same path through the belt of Orion. And then another one, and another one. And actually the entire time I was walking at that point, there was just one after another of these, what I assume were probably Starlink satellites or some similar. I can't remember the name of it right now. Amazon has a bunch of satellites that they're putting up now. And there was that sense of loss. Ever since I was a kid, I've known the constellation of Orion. It's such a recognizable constellation. It's probably one of the first ones a lot of kids learn when they can look up into the night sky. And it had been wrecked by just now. You've just got, it's kind of like putting a big blinking sign. And that's a possibility that could happen at some point too. So we have this just light, this string of lights wrecking the night sky. And I think the night sky is kind of an amazing thing because anybody could enjoy it. And there was also this element of knowing that you were in nature. If you could see the night sky, you were far enough away from the light pollution in the city that you were in nature. But now we're wrecking it for no real valuable reason other than to make somebody with a lot of money more money. And so, and I bring this up because there's maybe a lot of things, right? There's a war breaking out right now. There's a war, happening. There's multiple wars happening around the world as we meet here right now. And sometimes when we see things like this, like you see something in space kind of getting messed up. And we can feel a sense of loss. I know I felt a sense of loss there. And a sense of, or an awareness of that not being something I could immediately do something about. That was out of my control. And we may see as wars are breaking out and all sorts of things are happening around the world, we may have a sense of seeing many of these things and think, oh, that sucks. That's really bad. That's going to, even, not only is it bad right now, but it will cause more bad things and it will end very badly. And I can't do anything about it. We may feel that. But there are things that we can do. And even with so many things that pop up, we can notice this pressure or a sense of loss around things that we care about. This happens all the time with stuff that our brain throws up. Maybe it throws up something in the past that we can't control. And we're like, oh, that really upsets me, or I feel bad about that. And I can't do anything about that. Or it throws up a terrible intrusive thought about something that could happen in the future. Also with that, we may be trying to control that, but the more we try to control it, the only thing we'll do is create more fear and an increasing sense of not having control. And so when we notice these things, whether it's a very real thing that we see happening that we don't control, and we feel that loss, or it's things in the past or things in the future, with all of those, we need to bring ourselves to what we can create and grow, what we actually can build, and that can be really special, and that can make a difference. So I just wanted to bring this up because if you're noticing things happening inside of your head or outside of your head in the world, and it's bringing up despair, that is totally okay. It's totally okay to notice that pain, notice that loss. Is something that's always useful for us to notice. But then to not get caught up in despair, this is kind of just like easy, pointless compulsion to do. But to instead look at the fact that we care. And so what are we going to do that we are in control of? Let's see, when I noticed that, I don't know what we would call it, like light pollution in space. One of the things that I brought myself to in that moment was, okay, well, I'm going to meditate and sit here for another 10 days in silence, so I'm going to go and do that. That is something I can do right now, even if I'm seeing something that I want to change. But then also, after the meditation retreat in Croatia, I went to do the workshop in Istanbul. And bringing attention right internally to that. So seeing there's maybe a lot of things that I don't control in the world right now. But what I can control is giving time and energy to our community, giving time and energy to growing things that are useful. So if you notice yourself running into despair or just like anger and pain around anything that's happening in the world or anything that's happening inside of you, it's an opportunity to bring ourselves to what we're actually going to grow and build. Like, that is not only a way to navigate through that, but growing those things has a real impact in the world. So we don't just say, oh, okay, this kind of sucks, but I'm just gonna kind of just go do these things that I don't really like and aren't really, maybe having an impact or, in my life or in anybody else's. But really looking at the fact that we can have a significant impact in the world. We can go and do things. We can change big, complex systems. That's a very doable thing. And even it's such a privilege and amazing experience to be doing the workshop in Istanbul and to meet people. There were people there who had not only watched my videos, but who had, like, at the workshop, people who had watched my videos years ago, but who had also, like, we had communicated many years ago. And so now, things are going really well, and they came on by to the workshop, just to say hi and connect. And that's amazing. And also a demonstration of, we can do things in the world and they can have an impact. And then we do more things and they also can have an impact. So if we're feeling some despair, if we're feeling some anger and upset, that's okay. Let's go do things in the world that are useful and grow them. All right. I just wanted to share that before we get into, more things about brains. But also possibly, like, that itself, kind of just that, what we call framework or structure that we were just describing there. Right? There's going to be things we don't control. Often we think, well, what am I going to do about that? Is not the direction to go. The direction we want to go is, okay, so what are the things that we're going to go and create? And that's what we're going to give our time and energy to. We're going to create something good. We're going to create what we want to live and what we want to give, rather than just getting sucked into control compulsions. Welcome to everybody stopping on by. Blooper 785, it has been a while. I had to go and sit in front of a wall and just look at it. It was a good wall. Bogus Binted, thanks for stopping by to say hello. Mr. Mastodon Farm. Yeah, you have a shield instead of a wrench now. I wonder, what that means. We can only find out. Everybody, BS Data, welcome. Everybody, another thing is because I was doing a lot of coming and going, I didn't put up the auction for the pre-planned day planner for 2026 before I went to the meditation retreat, because then I'd be away. I wouldn't be able to answer any questions. But now that I am back, it is up now. So the link to the pre-planned day planner. So if you're not familiar with what that is, this is something, I know it's March now, but there's a lot happening in the year. This is still going to be useful. So what it is, it's a day planner, a beautiful day planner by Apuntes in Mexico. So they printed it it's in Spanish and English. And I've just gone through and already filled it in. Sometimes we can get stuck, or the questions will often come up to ourselves, or we'll share online, like, how do I actually do the things I value? How am I going to give my time and energy to things that are useful for my mental health? So I've just gone through and filled in the tasks for every day for you. Sometimes the tasks cover like a whole page, because it's maybe not going to be different at all in any of the days for those weeks. I'm going to auction this off. In many ways, it is a handwritten 365-day semi-personalized mental health and fitness, how to apply values self-help book. It's something I'd like to do every year. It was really enjoyable to write, taking kind of some complex concepts or skills and capturing them in a simple phrase that would fit in the box for a day, but also layering the concepts. So there is a structure to it. On one hand, you'll see that every single day is really just a different way of saying, hey, we're going to look at the context in which we find ourselves and do actions we value. But the subtle variations, you'll see form a structure to take us from what you might consider like the beginning of starting to consider values through to some more advanced concepts that come up as we navigate change. So the link is down in the description below, and I'll be sharing about it on social media. The auction will go for, right now it's set up for 15 days. Yeah, this is the first time trying this out, so we'll see how it goes. This is something I'd like to do every year, though, of course, in the future. I'll try to, I'll get the planner before the new year, but this is the first one. So in the future, hopefully there'll be a whole collection of these, but there'll always be a one-of-a-kind handmade self-help book. So yeah, If you'd be interested in that, check it out. Just Vincenzo, welcome. He said, I do a lot of progress, and after a while, I tend to go back to the old behaviors. I'm tired of doing progress and going back. It is great to get tired of that. It's totally preventable. In You Are Not a Rock or the Mind Workout, there's an exercise I call the path tool. It's later on in the book. There are 3 columns to it: on the path, just off the path, and way off the path. If we notice that we keep going way off the path, it helps to become much more aware of that middle column, just off the path. What goes in just off the path are what we all often call normal compulsions. I'd say for most people, they're going to see them as not compulsions. And those are the really useful behaviors to cut out. Those are the things that happen before we wander off the path. The subtle ways we start doing the compulsions, but maybe we say we have reasons for them, or they seem rational, or the topics seem real. But if we look at it, we're still trying to get stuff, and we're starting to chase stuff and control stuff, and then we run off the path. And I mentioned that in the book, that I credit that kind of exercise to sustaining recovery. Because rather than being reactive and waiting to go off the path, I make the kind of the red line or the cutoff the normal compulsions. So I would say there's lots of things that people would say are normal that they do that I would not do. And I don't do them because that then helps me not go off the path again. So that could be something to check it out if you've got the book. Or if you don't, I would say this for everybody, just starting to look at what are the things that take us off the path, what happens before them. There's going to be a set of very normal things we do that are actually leading to us like relapsing and going back to compulsions. And so we cut those out. Intrusive, I'm glad these tools have been helpful. Thanks for stopping by. Sanjay said, how to stop procrastinating when you've been so good at it for months and the brain's trap to figure out your real calling. I don't know what the last part of the question means there. But when you say how to stop procrastinating when you've been so good at it, I would say that is an example of procrastination, because you just stop doing it. And it feels totally wrong. Procrastination is often one of those normal compulsions that I just mentioned, that we'll see as kind of natural, but it's a great example of the classic compulsion pattern. There's a feeling there, we judge it as wrong, and then we base our actions around the wrong feeling, trying to get some right feeling to give us permission to live our lives. And so of course we're not going to get the right feeling. Brain's not going to give us permission to do that. And the cycle just repeats. We become very reactive because we're waiting for this bad feeling and this pressure to force us to take action. It creates this really unhelpful cycle. So we have to break the cycle. And the way we do that is by starting to do things when we don't feel like doing them. So, but if you're looking for what's the kind of special technique that's going to make it feel easy to break procrastination, that is an example of the exact same pattern. It's not going to feel easy. It's going to feel really difficult. What you can make easy is anything around the action that would create uncertainty. So if you know there's something you would procrastinate on, what are all the things you can do to make that action as easy as possible? Like setting things up in advance. I'll often suggest to people that they approach it like you're a teacher for an elementary school class. And so you know that your kids in class are not going to want to do whatever activity. And so you've got to have a very clear schedule. You've got to know when the breaks are. You've got to know where the snacks are and when recess is going to happen. You've got to know that your kids aren't going to be paying attention. So how are you going to break up the exercise? How are you going to prepare it? How are you going to have it in front of the kids so that it's simple for them to do and easy? Because if there's any kind of delay or there's any uncertainty or the path isn't clear, you're going to lose the kids immediately. And so you or the brain are like the kids. So how can you set it up so that it's really easy to do, but that feeling of, oh, I don't feel like doing this, that's still going to be there. Levance said, I am supporting a chap in my job who is hyper focused on his breathing. I'm not sure how to help him. Do you have any suggestions? So it's really difficult to get somebody else to change a thing. If he wants to change it, there are a bunch of things that he can do, but they are going to involve him like dropping that whatever he's trying to control through the focus on his breath. One thing, and so especially when sensory motor compulsions come up, one of the things I always ask people is, what else do you like to control? We could look at sensory motor compulsions as an outcome or a peak. This is me making a mountain with my hands right now. An outcome or a peak that is built on lots of control and certainty. And so at the top, we'll say there's that, a focus on breathing. So we might say there's a breathing obsession. But the brain is just being logical. It really helped me to recognize that the way I was teaching my brain to interact with uncertainty everywhere in life was just very logically encouraging the brain to chase that same level of certainty elsewhere. So if I'm teaching it to get certainty with all sorts of things that seem very normal, and they're even not that important, like a simple one would be, say, doing some work and just checking again, what were the instructions with that? Or having a meeting coming up. Oh, what time was that meeting again? I can't remember if it was 2 or, when is that other meeting happening? And we think it's just normal to check that. But what we're teaching the brain in that moment is, oh, if there's a little uncertainty, we can't handle just waiting to find out. We've got to know. And often we can get certainty. But then what happens when we have an uncertainty like, oh, am I breathing deeply enough? Or am I breathing right? We've trained the brain. Well, if we have an uncertainty, we should just go check it. And then we start to check it, right? Because there's not, an Outlook calendar or something like that to go and check. The only way to do that is to check our body and make a subjective judgment. And of course, because the brain wants us to do compulsions, we're going to judge it as wrong. And then we check and check and check and check. So I would say one of the things that we can do, but it involves the participation of both people. So or all of the people, if the person who's focused on their breathing does want to cut out the compulsion, it could be useful to look at what are the other interactions with uncertainty in the workplace, because those are also ways to model healthier behavior, model embracing uncertainty, and also to practice it. Because we can't expect to drop a behavior around something threatening. So if we believe, oh, if I'm breathing wrong, it's going to affect my health or I'm going to die or something like that, it's very difficult to cut that out if we've been teaching the brain that around uncertainties that aren't life-threatening, like, oh, is that meeting at 2 or 2:30? We do check. So if we're saying on non-threatening uncertainties, you must check and get certainty. On threatening uncertainties, we don't check. That's not going to happen. There's such a conflict there. So we've got to start to teach the brain that around uncertainties, in general, we don't have to check and chase certainty. Then it becomes much more possible to cut out the compulsions around the threatening stuff. RxVNN, I hope you're having a good weekend. Luna said, how can I let go of the belief that I need quiet and silence and navigate noise? I got noisy neighbors and can't afford to move. It can be difficult. So noisy neighbors or fear of noise, sensitivity to noise comes up a lot. I used to struggle with misophonia, where noises would just give me these like really uncomfortable physical sensations. So of course I would avoid them. I would try to control all sorts of things around noise. It was useful then to explore, just like we might with something like contamination. That, okay, like I want to learn how to have these experiences and not get caught up in compulsions and not let them control my life. You can see somebody who would be afraid of contamination may also see all sorts of other people as the causes of the contaminated things. Those may also be legitimately contaminated things. But do we want to let that stuff limit our lives? Do we want to let that stuff control our lives? And so setting up a series of exercises to gradually build up how we're able to welcome experiences while doing things we value, yeah, it can be really useful. Doing things like ACT or ERP exercises around noises is really common. I hope you can enjoy having some noise while doing things that you value, Luna. Yeah, RxVN saying here, cutting the normal compulsions was an amazing tool to sustaining amazing mental health. Yeah, totally. Those normal compulsions, and again, even they come up around noise and physical sensations too, where like just a little physical discomfort, we're very accustomed to always fixing it, or a little bit of noise, where we might even say, oh, I can only meditate when it's totally quiet. I can only work when it's totally quiet. We can do things with noise. So like one of the exercises I did around that was writing things I viewed as important that in the past I would have thought, oh no, I need to have this very controlled place to write the important things. It was useful to start writing them in noisy places. Lactosian, it's good to see you. I hope everything is going well with you too. Yeah, things are good with me. I like how in our video today, and there's a mirror behind me. I'm in a hotel room. You can see the back of me right over there. If people are listening to this later, you cannot see me. If you're watching it later, though, you can. But it is indeed brain time. Justin Vincenzo, he said, I'm scared of creating a new obsession if I start to obsess over whether a normal action I do is a compulsion or not. Yeah, so again, that is an example of one of the normal compulsions. But yeah, you don't have to do it that way. So much of what's useful here is giving time and energy to the things we want to do. So the way you could look at it with this is so defining what it is you want to give time and energy to in life. And you've seen that you go off the path and end up giving time and energy to stuff that you don't want to do in life. What's the in between there? So you can really orient it around the things you value doing. And so why is it that you start doing and spending time and energy on stuff that isn't related to what you value? And that's what we're looking at here. So yeah, you can completely make it about what you value doing and where you want to go in life. It doesn't have to be about, I've got to, and in fact, it's not going to be helpful to make it about, I've got to cut out compulsions. Because we don't see where we want to go just by identifying all the things we want to avoid. Think of it like a map. What's the destination you want to go to? How are you going to know when you started to just wander off the path to the destination? Yeah, you don't have to get out the map and then just go, I don't want to go to that city or 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 that city. There's going to be so many. It's not about that. It's where do I want to go and how am I going to know when I've gone off in the wrong direction? Just slightly. Lactosian said, when we launch ourselves off the path of recovery and we begin compulsively ruminating and doing compulsions, what is a good first step to begin working on recovery again? Is like we were talking a bit about there with procrastination. I'd watch out for thinking there's like a big significant thing in any moment. And so even if we haven't wandered off or launched ourselves, yeah, forget wander is too casual of a verb. Launch and like throwing ourselves. So when we've thrown and launched ourselves off the path, the next step in the next moment is no different to the person who has not done that. The person who is just on the path, taking steps towards their values. All we ever have in the next moment is an opportunity to consider the context in which we find ourselves and make a choice about how we want to give our time and energy to things we value. And so that never changes. It's important not to approach recovery as some kind of special thing. Like, oh, I'm in recovery now, special place, totally different set of actions or whatever. The practices that I'm doing where I'm at now are no different to any action that somebody would be doing if they're starting on recovery. Just because of physics, we only live in the present. So, and there's so many things that could happen. Even if we ourselves are consistent in the things we value, right? Things could happen in the world that completely disrupt everything around us. And so suddenly we find ourselves in a chaotic situation where we have none of our supports. We can't do any of the things that we valued doing yesterday. Even loved ones are gone, business is gone, etc. In that moment, we don't have to relapse. In that moment, all we have is the context in which we find ourselves and a choice. We get to choose to give our time and energy to something we value in that moment. And so you have that too. Even if, yeah, one of the things in your context right now is the brain is going to really be screaming at you to go and do compulsions. And so, yeah, that becomes less. Yeah, we can absolutely go to a place where, the brain starts to stick with you. The brain's not throwing up all of the old stuff it used to throw up. Sure, and that's nice, but there's all sorts of other things that we can experience in the world that try to push us into compulsions. You get to choose some kind of action that's going to be useful to you. And so, given where you're at right now, yeah, what's a simple action like that? And I say it just to help yourself see, like, it's recovery and getting started on recovery are not far off things. Even in the next moment, if we pause and we felt the urge to check our phones and we put the phone down and we just go outside and walk around for a second, just say, okay, I see that pressure from my brain telling me to do something. I'm going to choose something else. You're there. That is the same skill you'll be practicing 20 years into recovery. Right? The pressure, uncertainty to do a compulsion and you choosing to do something else. So yeah, whatever you would like to do, whatever would benefit you, would benefit, people you care about, your community. That's a great first step for recovery. So enjoy that. August said, I'm generally much better at not giving into compulsions, rumination, but the thing that usually drags me back is the at times certainty that I don't deserve to get better or be happy. Any advice on how to handle that? Yeah, deservingness is one of my, I don't know if I call it like a pet peeve or like a kind of a thing that I'm fascinated by. And I think it's partly a bunch of things in our modern society that have even pushed this idea of deservingness. Deservingness does not exist. That is not a thing. There is no such thing as somebody who doesn't deserve happiness or doesn't deserve to live or so on. I think it really speaks to like an unfortunate and very problematic hierarchical system we're creating in society, inequality in society, implying that there are some people who deserve things like sending satellites across my constellations and some people who don't deserve things. And that does not exist. Yeah, that is no different than if we invented some random thing like some people are effervescent and other people are not effervescent, and non-effervescent people don't deserve happiness. Like we're just like throwing out random, subjective, imaginary judgments. So one of the things that can be useful to look at here, because we'll just often engage with this, like be having debates about like, oh, do I deserve this? Do I deserve recovery? Do I deserve happiness? And it's not about deserving or not. I would look at like, where is that framework coming from at all? There's no such thing as deservingness. Doesn't exist. So where'd you pick that up? Why would you ever buy into a framework like that? Uh, what is going to feel scary about just unreasonably supporting yourself, caring for yourself, being an unreasonable fan of yourself, and practicing happiness? It is not earned. It is not something we have to go and get. It is a practice that we can all practice. It is something we can celebrate. And I would say this to anybody too watching this right now. If you are thinking that there are people who don't deserve things, you can see exactly how that's going to come back and slap you in the face. If we're engaging in a ridiculous framework like that and judging others based on such an imaginary subjective framework, the brain is going to do the same to you. And it's going to suck because it's totally imaginary. So you would never be able to prove deservingness or effervescentness. Nomad said, what's a good place to start practicing being kind to myself? Oh, this place is good. Hating on myself for mistakes and failures becomes really tiring. So there is one thing I always suggest with this, and you may have heard me mention before, doing a body scan, a loving kindness meditation, and celebrating parts of your body that don't do anything. Because watch it, because you can see there's again, speaking of frameworks, the same thing we'd get into deservingness. You mention mistakes and failures. There's a concept I often share with coaching clients called the bad accountant. And the bad accountant seems to be this tendency our brain has to, it's like there's this little bad accountant in there who always says you're in debt. It'll just like rack up all of these things you've done in life and say you're in debt. It's the same thing that goes into deservingness often, because they'll say, oh, you don't deserve it because you're in debt because of these things. And you have to do a whole bunch of other things to earn your way out of this imaginary debt. And then you'll be deserving, or then we can be kind and stuff like that. And so the bad accountant is lying. The bad accountant is bad at math. And you've got to start to steal from this bad accountant in the brain. And so not listen to them. So they say you're in debt. You got to not listen. You've got to go and spend and give anyway. And it'll feel wrong. The bad accountant in the brain will threaten you for it. One of the ways we can do this is by starting to give kindness and celebration and appreciation to things we do that are not important, or body parts on us that do nothing. So starting to practice kindness unreasonably, rather than trying to come up with like reasons to give kindness, because that's playing in the same framework. So the framework is the problem. This idea that there's like things we do that earn deservingness or earn kindness, and therefore there are things we do that take it away. We got to blow up that whole framework. So yeah, one of the ways is to just start appreciating, celebrating, giving kindness to yourself just for random things. Like an exercise I'll often share with people also is to like go and like celebrate that you gave yourself a glass of water. Like rather, because often we might do something like that, like getting a glass of water is just this thing we're gonna do while I'm planning something else that's important, or thinking about something else. I'm just gonna go take care of the body right now and not even think about it. No, make that a really important thing. Look at you giving yourself something that's really useful to you. It will keep you alive. Recognize the kindness in that, just like if somebody else was bringing you, say, a glass of water or something like that. So you have many opportunities every day to appreciate kindness and to practice it unreasonably. So enjoy that. Lactosian said, did you ever run into just random days of difficulty when on the middle of your recovery journey? I find myself bombarded by horrible feelings and thoughts, especially after long periods, with no compulsions. And it took me over a year to realize that it's just a brain phenomenon to get me back into trying to figure out what's wrong. Have you ever gone through this? Yeah, there's what I'll call write-off days, where, yeah, but I would describe write-off days as where maybe that would be earlier in the recovery journey, because that was like doing a bunch of compulsions and then realizing, oh, like I just spent the whole day doing compulsions. And then so often I describe those as write-off days. But you could also look at it this way. Like I noticed you mentioned there no compulsions, but what you described there, I would see as a compulsion. So if there's just like thoughts and feelings and we're judging them, it's like, oh, this is a horrible feeling and this thought sucks and uh, like that kind of stuff. If we're spending a lot of time and energy hating on brain stuff like that, that kind of is the basic compulsion, right? Hating on a feeling, hating on a thought. So if we're doing a bunch of that, yeah, that's gonna suck. What if you don't have to hate on any of those thoughts or feelings? And so, yeah, if they show up like that, they're not horrible stuff, they're not whatever, that it's totally okay for them to be there. And so, even when you think of like, oh, like being bombarded, like bombarded implies like I have a big cannon and I'm just like, shooting cannonballs at you. What if it's not bombarding you? Like, what if it's not an enemy? What if it's not attacking? Something that I find really helpful with the brain, and even a great example was at the meditation retreat just recently. So 10-day silent retreat in the just sitting practice. I was exploring some kind of further techniques in the practice of just sitting and silent illumination. I noticed that when I delve deeper into meditation and do some things differently than I've done before, there's just a very natural reaction from my brain that I'll describe as like pushing back. Like it'll just kind of flip through some random images, or like it'll chase after something really desirable and then suddenly flip to something really terrible. And it seems to be kind of like a physical reaction to doing something different. So I don't see that as it bombarding me. Just like if I was going to a yoga retreat and I really stretched a joint, I'd expect it to be kind of sore, maybe it'd swell up, because that's what the body's going to do. When we start to change, it's going to try to lock things down, keep things in the way it was before. It's not an enemy, it's not bombarding us. So, could it be okay as you're doing different things to have the brain have a natural physical reaction that may come up with a bunch of thoughts? That's just the brain's way of saying, oh, like there's a different thing happening. There's some uncertainty around us. And that's the way it expresses it. And so we make that okay. If the brain wants to do that stuff, like the brain can just do whatever it wants to do. And so if it wants to throw up a bunch of old thoughts, that's fine. It can do that. We can make space for that. And we don't have to see it as attacking us. Jake. Oh, you have no specific question, but stop by to say thank you. Thank you so much. Hey, I really appreciate the kind words, Jake. Thank you. Lucas, thanks for stopping by. It's good to see you. Be a study. So is there anything about your content you would update or redact? I'm sure there's probably stuff. I've thought about actually doing a series. So I started making YouTube videos again, and like the kind of non-vertical YouTube videos. And so I'll start to make those regularly again. And I have thought about it could be fun to go and watch, like do reaction videos to some of the old videos, and then see. Yeah, maybe there would be things I'd change. I've also thought about just doing new versions of some of the old videos that are popular. Because, yeah, there probably would be things I would describe differently. I would especially say, yeah, there's a lot of advantage to now doing this work for many years and just seeing, right, connecting with lots of people all over the world as they're making these changes. So, absolutely, the way of describing things, understanding the challenges that can come up as people are making the changes, there's often things that I would maybe say a little differently, or some extra tips I would share just based on, oh, when you're doing this, a lot of people see that this happens. So here's how you can address that. And that stuff's, yeah, useful. I think that's the natural journey of experience. The more opportunities I get to help people navigate making changes, the more I can see what's consistent, for people all over the world, and then the more scenarios um, of like really unexpected things, but also people at different stages of life and different, professions, regions, things like that. The kind of factors that they may have to consider can be slightly different than what somebody else in a different situation might have to consider. So yeah, you just build up, yeah, a kind of library of experiences that are useful to share. And Helico, it's good to see you. Oh, he said my boyfriend broke up with me a couple of days ago. I'm sorry. We're still living together for a bit because I've asked him to. I'm scared of being alone. We also have an upcoming trip planned with friends and family. I know that it will be very painful once we go our separate ways, and I can see that I'm trying to postpone that moment. I feel like I'm not quite ready to deal with it right now. Any advice? Uh, when we approach things as, oh, I'm not ready to deal with this, whatever we're trying to control there, by avoiding it, we're preventing the opportunity to have that experience and navigate it. And it's also helpful to recognize that dealing with it doesn't have to mean it feels good, doesn't have to mean we do good. We're going to have experiences. And we're going to have experiences, and yeah, sometimes we're going to cry, we're going to find it difficult to do things, we're going to need to ask for extra support, we're going to have to, maybe change some of the things we wanted to be doing, and that's okay. I think we put a lot of expectation on ourselves to have some kind of perfect reaction to something that's difficult. And then it seems really scary because we're like, oh, like, I don't know if I'll be able to have this perfect reaction. But if we look at just, no, there's no need to have some kind of perfect reaction. There's no need to navigate something perfectly. Then we are ready to handle something because we're human and we can have human experiences. And so feeling all the feelings when there's a breakup, feeling all the feelings when we're alone, for example, too. Those are things we can have. That doesn't mean they're going to feel good. That doesn't mean we have to do it perfectly. So, yeah, you see, there's going to be some challenges, but yeah, you can handle them. And what's going to help you handle them? What's going to support you in that? Not to avoid the experiences, but to say, yeah, I'm going to have some difficult experiences. And here are very concrete ways I can make that easier for myself, and not easier in getting rid of a feeling, but easier. For example, I'm just gonna be, yeah, having a lot of big feelings during that time. I don't have to get rid of the big feelings, but what do I find useful when I have big feelings? Like maybe it's about getting out of the house more. Maybe it's about going for walks in nature. Maybe it's about meeting with your therapist. And so just recognizing, okay, that's going to be happening. I'm going to start doing those things now. I'm not going to wait for the difficult feelings. I'm going to be putting those supports in place now. And yeah, when some difficult feelings come up, I'm going to be taking care of myself. And that doesn't have to mean it feels perfect. Yeah. So, and Helenica, and Helenico, yeah, now I can read it. I hope as you navigate this, yeah, you're kind to yourself and not putting pressure on yourself to have some kind of perfect reaction to it. Yog. So, what is it about following your values that actually works? Does it change your brain chemistry, or is it just a tool to guide you on what to focus on when you have a compulsion? Yeah, what do you mean by works? Why would you need to change your brain chemistry? Like if I'm following my values, there's nothing else to do. So yeah, why would you need something to work on something? That'd be a question I'd be curious about. down spiral. I said, can you procrastinate on something you're passionate about and therefore should keep working on that passion despite the bad feelings? Oh, yeah. I mean, people often procrastinate on the things they're passionate about. That's why it's useful to see that the passion, if we're going to be passionate about something, that's going to be an action, not a feeling. So, what are the actions of cultivating and caring for that? And that includes in things like relationships. Right? If people are attaching their actions in a relationship, so a romantic relationship, to just, am I having a passionate feeling right now, or am I having an in love feeling right now? That's going to create issues in the relationship. It's about saying, this is something I care for. So yeah, today I'm not feeling it so much for a variety of reasons, but here are the actions of caring for this relationship. Here are the actions of passion that cultivate passion rather than reactively looking for a feeling. Yeah. And so procrastination is a great example of, you see the problems with using feelings to determine actions. Because then, yeah, you can recognize you're passionate about something and you are going to be so happy if you put the time and energy into that. But then if you rely on feelings, you'll end up procrastinating. And then you'll be sad because you're not taking care of that plant in your garden that you're really passionate about. Blooper 785, is there a way to get rid of the intense fear without cutting out compulsions? But you are asking about how to do a compulsion. So I'd be, if you want to cut out compulsions, why are you trying to get rid of feelings? It can be way more useful to have feelings. Great mental health and fitness is having any thought or feeling while doing actions that we value. If we're trying to get rid of fear before doing a compulsion, or before doing things we value, or before cutting out compulsions, I mean, we're already doing compulsions. Right? That's just like asking, how do I get rid of the intense contamination feeling before leaving the house? No, it's like that is the compulsion. Yeah. RxVN said, so for me, it was very interesting because I had a period of time in which I was cutting like all the normal compulsions first, and then the mental illness compulsions with uncertainty only after. Yeah. Sometimes there's, I mean, yeah, we don't have to do it in any kind of special order. There's just things. Oh, and then you explained more below. You said, just imagine doing no normal compulsions, but having mental illness compulsions, like checking if real or if I'm me. The mind of a normal human cannot comprehend. I don't know. Those are pretty popular compulsions. Yeah. I see Dylan pointed out too to Blooper. Yeah, doing things to get rid of the fear would be compulsions. Exactly. Thanks for pointing that out already, Dylan. Minchi said, I'm working on reducing my cleaning compulsions, but I think I subconsciously put too much importance on cleanliness, and it keeps getting in the way. How should I approach this? Yeah, like it's always one of the fascinating areas to explore that I think can teach us so much about many other areas where we'll do compulsions, because when we cut out the compulsions around cleanliness, it doesn't mean we have to make things dirty or abandon keeping things clean. I used to have hand washing compulsions. I still wash my hands. I just do it for very different reasons. And I would say the way I take care of things now is actually much cleaner than in the past, because in the past it was so reactive and fear-based that it would actually get in the way of things, or I would just avoid things because like I couldn't clean them perfectly or whatever. If I noticed you mentioned there that the importance of cleanliness keeps getting in the way. So I'd be curious about what that means. So specifically, how is it getting in the way? Because those might be the areas where it could be fun to explore changing the intention behind cleanliness, exploring, for example, what we want to give. So if we're looking at how to do something well based on what we want to give instead of trying to control something we want to get, how will that change the time and energy spent on cleaning. There can also be lots of fun exercises to do where we may say there's a particular way of cleaning things we really like, but we're going to do some exercises just to make the brain squirm a bit. So yeah, even for me, I can think of when I was first cutting out compulsions around things like hand washing and stuff like that. Yeah, I would set very specific values to do things that like felt really dirty and contaminated to me, and to just be aware of that in the situations in advance. So like if there were particular social situations, I can remember a set of kind of social situations where I was starting to work on cutting out kind of whether I would like shake hands or stuff like that, and just setting the intention where I would just say, "Yep, I'm going to be eating with my hands in these situations, and I'm going to, if anybody offers their hand, I'm going to shake it." And I just had to set that in advance, and absolutely the brain did not like that and was completely convinced I was doing terrible, dangerous things. And so, yeah, wherever you're noticing it's getting in the way, you can change the intention around how you're doing it and why you're doing it. And also, there could be some fun exercises to set up there to, yeah, make the brain squirm a bit. So that'll involve like not doing the cleaning compulsion, but doing something that the brain will not like, but that is part of what you value. And I would just say that as well. Always keeping it in the kind of alignment with things we value really helps. So when I was shaking hands or something like that, in the example I shared, yeah, that was because I was spending time with people. Those were situations with people I cared about. So it was saying, look, I want to be able to do this as part of caring for these relationships. So I'm going to do it, whether the brain likes it or not. And I'm going to do it in the wrong way. But the values were what really helped there. Christopher Henley said, do you still get urges or feelings to do compulsions? How would you deal with it? If so, what helps you get to recovery? Yeah, so I would say not for any of the things that I struggled with in the past. But I would say we all, people having human brains, will get urges to do things that might seem, so now for me, it would just be something that would seem very normal. And so, yeah, like a phone is a great example. Like there might just be an uncertainty or whatever that pops up to like, hey, why don't you just go and check this thing? Like something that I practice right now when I travel, or like I travel kind of full time, and I'm often in new places, but I'm also often in places that I've been before. And so right now I'm in a city I've visited 2 times before over the past 4 years. And so when I'm walking around, sometimes what'll happen now, which is still the same mechanisms that would go into OCD, because I'll have an uncertainty like, am I going on the right path, like the right road or the right street right now? And I might feel the urge to check my map. And what I like to practice now is I won't check it. So I go, yeah, maybe this is the wrong path. Is it gonna be the end of the world if I keep going? Like I can see my brain just going, oh, we don't want to waste time. Right? Like it's still as a brain always gonna be like, oh, we gotta avoid bad things. And so absolutely now I wouldn't run into any of the urges or intrusive thoughts like on any of the topics I would have in the past, which is phenomenal. But it's still a brain, so now it's gonna latch on to other uncertainties that seem very normal, very rational. Right? I'm pretty busy. So my brain's like, we can't waste time, by going the wrong direction. Then we'd need to come back. And so then, yeah, now I practice risking that. And so I also find it's a great skill. It, by not checking it, also really helps me get better at wayfinding rather than relying on a map. So I'd say that's one thing. We can, that's why I like to call it mental fitness. When we're really struggling, that's like having no experience in the gym. And so it seems really difficult and challenging and sweaty to start lifting weights. Once we can do lots of stuff in the gym, there's so much more that we can do. And so, yeah, it can seem weird, or that experience of in the past, like not being able to do any of the exercises at all, not being able to lift any of the weights. We put so much distance between that. But then there's all sorts of just really interesting, exciting things to explore and uncertainties to play around with. And that's amazing. Like we don't want to get rid of that, I would say. Like I like that there's always more uncertainties I can interact with or play around with. And that really helps me. Like even it's such an amazing experience to be able to go and do workshops around the world and things like that now. And it's like being up in front of people, eating food. It was like it's great that I can eat right before doing a talk or doing a workshop. Being able to walk out of make breakfast in the morning and then walk out and not have to do all sorts of compulsions and not even have thoughts popping up about the things that I would have done compulsions around in the past. Meeting people, but also something that I find that's a really important skill that lets me do what I do now with uncertainty is that when I go and do a workshop somewhere in the world, I often have not seen the location. And that if let's say this. So I used to do business workshops for many years, and you don't do a big strategy workshop without knowing the venue and all of the elements of it because you have to do all sorts of things. And so even when I was doing the workshop in Istanbul, I hadn't been to the venue yet, but we wanted to put up a wall of paper to put up sticky notes, and that's sometimes going into a venue a difficult thing. Some places will say, "Yeah, we have a wall," but then you get there and they don't actually have a wall, or the wall you can't actually put up the paper or things like that. And so that uncertainty, I can just be there, and so I'll design the workshop so that if I show up at a place the morning of the workshop and the way the workshop is planned can't happen because of all sorts of logistical issues, that's fine. Like I plan for it to be doable with whatever situation we step into. And so that level of openness to whatever could happen is such a valuable skill. Whereas in the past I would have had to have everything super controlled and super certain. So yeah, there's all sorts of benefits to it that it is just so much more enjoyable. And so that kind of, I think it maybe answers when you say, how would you deal with it? If so, yeah, if the urge to come up or the urge to check on something, to control something came up, yeah, I would let it sit there. I would make the brain squirm and not do it. And so then the question of what helped you get to recovery. So variations of that all the way down. So cutting out the compulsions and having uncertainty and instead giving time and energy to things that are actually useful. In that, and again, that's a practice that can just keep on going. Maybe this gets at the person who asked about, does it work? There's nothing that has to work. Doing the action is the thing. And that's just a beneficial way to live. We can have uncertainties, we can have feelings, thoughts, we can have things happening in the world, and we can give our time and energy to stuff that's actually useful. Yog, he said, I'm reading your book and finding it very valuable. Thank you for reading. He said, but since I have Puro, I wonder if it will work for me. For example, while doing what I value, I often just do mental compulsions at the same time, but then you're not doing what you value. What we do in our head is an action, and what we spend time and energy on our head is that's also values or other stuff. You can't. And so this question comes up all the time. And I point out it's not possible, and it speaks to how we need to start to align things. If somebody says, I'm doing actions I value, but I'm ruminating, that doesn't make sense. And so that's maybe a change to explore. What we're giving our time and energy to, what we're giving time and energy to in our heads also has to be aligned with what we value. If I'm talking to somebody, I say, oh, I'm talking to friends and I value friends. But in my head, I'm time traveling to another time. I'm trying to control something in the past. I'm ruminating on the future. I'm trying to control what they think. Am I really doing what I value? Because what I'm doing in that moment is pretending to talk to a friend while I try to do time traveling compulsions. And so I would say that we're not doing what we value in that scenario. Pom Pom Kitty, I hope you're doing amazing as well. It's good to see you. Christopher Henley, he said, what's take on ERP therapy have you used to attend that type of counseling? Yeah, when I started out, when I first got diagnosed with OCD and did therapy, I did 6 months of ERP, exposure and response prevention therapy. The most recent videos on ERP scripts, and there's another video coming out. The next one's also on ERP scripts and imaginal exposures. I find that a lot of what people talk about online as ERP is not ERP. ERP is super effective. Again, not because it's some kind of ritual that has to work for something, but because we are having an experience that in the past we would have tried to control with compulsions, and now we're going to give our time and energy to things that we actually want to do in life, that we want to create and grow. So also with ERP, it's immediately effective because we are doing something different. It's not ERP. And so I say to everybody, if you're going to ERP therapy and it seems to be like some kind of ritual and then it's supposed to get better, or like symptoms are supposed to get better or something like that, I would be wary of that. ERP is going to involve changes that are fundamentally better. Like the changes are the things we want to be doing in life. So like if we had mental compulsions, so we went into social interactions, and then after a social interaction, we're always replaying the social interaction in our heads. An example of an ERP exercise would be to arrange a bunch of social interactions, maybe some that we've been avoiding, which would be a physical compulsion, but say, let's stick to the mental compulsion here for a moment. So we arrange a bunch of social interactions. We're going to go to them. And then afterwards, we're going to practice not doing that mental compulsion of reviewing it. So after the social event, we're going to give our time and energy to something else. If the brain throws up a thought, oh, did you say something terrible? We're just going to immediately not debate it. We're going to be like, yep, I said the most horrible things. It got recorded. It's on tape. Multiple people recorded it. So it's going to be on the news tomorrow, everywhere in the world. It's going to go viral. I'm never going to have friendships or spend any time with anybody ever again. So since that's going to happen tomorrow, I'm going to make sure today that I'm giving my attention to my interactions with people. I'm actually going to be present for those because these are the last social interactions I get to have with people for the rest of my life. And we don't do the compulsion, and we just give our attention inside of our heads and outside of our heads to the things that matter. August. Thank you for complimenting the back of my head back there. There it is. Lactosian said, if you had the chance to live as any animal for a whole month, is this about the Therians in like South America and Latin America? So you said, if you had the chance to live as any animal for a whole month, what animal would you choose? And what mindfulness practices would you do as that animal? I don't know. Right? Because we are animals. So humans are animals. So you mean like any other animal? If I was any other animal, I don't know. It's not something I've thought about in a while. And an animal is not immediately springing to mind. Like maybe if I was a squirrel, but maybe like a karate or like kung fu or taekwondo squirrel, yeah, I might be a squirrel that does martial arts, and I would just practice like squirrel martial arts mindfully, up in my tree, and then collect nuts. Yeah, and as well as, yeah, actually, there you go. Because I would do that, and as a human animal, I really enjoy just going to do, like, going grocery shopping or something like that, and just practicing a mindful walk on the way there, and then being with the things in the market or something like that. So if I was a squirrel who was practicing mindfulness, I would go and collect nuts mindfully, and like super, I would enjoy that tremendously. Thank you for asking. Because now, yeah, I would like to be a mindful squirrel collecting nuts. Because like squirrels do seem like a little agitated when they're collecting nuts, and maybe I could share with them, like, guys, like, let's just calm down when we're collecting nuts. Sue said, what tips would you have for claustrophobia triggered by being stuck in one country due to paperwork? Yeah, stuck. So I call this stuckness. Very common for a lot of compulsions. We may not even recognize that, like, the fear is I could get stuck. We do not like being stuck. We want to live our lives. We want to have agency and be in charge of how we can live our lives. But quite often, as you mentioned, there's a variety of things that can get us in unable to move because of, like, paperwork and, financial things, wars. Like, there's so much happening. Also, there's just kind of like very practical things that, or I don't know if practical, yeah, practical is not the right word. Like, there's other things that involve stuckness in kind of minor ways, where we might feel stuck in a conversation, or actually we're on an airplane in a seat we don't want to be in, and we're kind of stuck there. There's so many ways that we can interact with stuckness. Two things that can be, I always find useful to look at with stuckness. So one, what things can we do to live our lives in the context we find ourselves? Because our brains love to kick away the goal and to choose something that's not possible. So I'll sometimes ask people, like, in an extreme, like, you must be so upset that you can't go to the moon today. You're stuck here on Earth. And we often don't think of it that way. We hadn't thought of going to the moon today, so therefore we don't feel stuck. But the moment the brain says, oh, I wish we were doing this other thing that we can't do right now, we feel terrible. So exploring what's creating that pressure, because, yeah, if right now, because of paperwork, you can't go to another place, then it is no different than saying, like, because of, like, physics, I can't go to the moon today. Because I don't have, like, trillions of dollars, I can't go to the moon today. Yeah, yeah. Like, all of those things are true. So they're all kind of the same then. So why would we engage with that and just make ourselves miserable if it's a thing that's not possible right now? So one thing to look at, like, what's that pressure that's kind of creating an expectation or a desire or a should that's then making us upset and feeling stuck. Because we can change that. And it helps to recognize the brain really loves to latch onto that stuff in many ways throughout life, to say, like, we should be doing that thing that we can't do. And then we get angry. So there's that. The other thing I like to look at is that, yeah, it makes sense. We want to live our lives. We like that. So what are the ways that, in the context where you are right now, you can bring some agency into your life, that you can make choices, and that you can point those out to the brain? So when the brain's like, we should be on the moon right now, I'm going to say, okay, brain, yeah, of course we should be on the moon right now, but here's the thing I can do, and look, I went and did it, and I wanted to do this. And this was a doable thing, and we did it. Let's celebrate that. So there's also finding those ways that we can bring agency into our life. And I mentioned that because often we'll get so focused on the thing that we can't do that we start to drop living our lives in other areas, because we start to say, once this other thing is taken care of, then I'm going to have permission to do these other things I want to do in life. And so not getting caught up in that. Whatever that other stuff is that we want to do in life, we've got to do it now. We've got to not wait for the permission of going to the moon or whatever it is that we can't do right now. So yeah, I hope where you're at right now, you can find some ways to like live your life now and do some things you want to do now. And I hope the paperwork gets sorted out, of course, too. I understand how frustrating paperwork and things like that can be, and then it feels like, oh, just like one thing gets missed, or somebody else just doesn't pass on along a paper, and you're like, oh, that is going to affect my life. So yeah, it is very frustrating. But how can you live now in that context? Just Vincenzo said, I value listening to podcasts because I really enjoy learning while doing other stuff. The thing is that I notice that can also be a distraction. What do you think? Yeah, like I just ask people, like, can you do stuff without listening? If you're in like, oh, I can't really do something without having a podcast on, then yeah, like you can see that there's a skill. Like if we just think of mental fitness as like gym stuff, okay, like right now, the skill of doing a thing without having a distraction, that is not one that somebody might have. Do you want to have that skill? Because you can have it. And it becomes very enjoyable. The other thing is, if you like learning and listening to podcasts, are you learning? Like when you're doing one thing and listening to a podcast, like are you actually learning? What would it be like to really learn whatever it is that you want to learn? And how would you know that you've learned that and get to apply that? So also there, I might challenge the idea that like, listening to a podcast while doing something else is learning. Sometimes it's just having noise on it, and then we're like, oh yeah, like I'm learning because it was about an interesting topic, but then we remember none of it later and we share none of it, and then it's kind of lost and we haven't learned anything. So yeah, if it's learning, yeah, how are you applying the learning? Roshui said, so we just cannot know and we just gotta live life and explore. I don't know what you're referring to, but I'm going to like, why wouldn't you just live life and explore anyway? Like to that question, like there's no, how could there be a negative answer to that question? Biestada, you mentioned doing a collab with some people, but I don't know. I don't think I know who those people are. I say that, then if I do know them, I apologize. Cameron said, how does your book compare to your mental fitness online course? Who would you recommend one to versus the other? Yeah, so yeah, Cameron, thanks for asking. I think so. Mental Fitness 101, I made a couple years after the book. So I would say it gets into some of the common challenges and things like that that come up. There is a section at the beginning that I've added in that I find really important and useful around context. So there is some additional things, but there are also exercises that are in both because I think they're really important and useful. I would say that the biggest difference is that on the course, you can ask questions and I reply to them. The course is also an advantage for people that like courses, that there are videos, there are explanations. It has the text and the exercises, but especially if you like to listen to things, see things, like see diagrams and so on, then that kind of multimedia approach, then I would go for the course. Another thing that I always ask people, if they have the book already, what's getting in the way of applying it? So I guess unless you're thinking of like, I don't know if I want to get the book or the course. If you don't have either, you're thinking, which one should I get? I would just be curious about how do you learn best? Do you want more interaction as you're learning? Do you like a multimedia approach? Then you want the Mental Fitness 101 course. If you're like, I just want the book and I just want to go off and I'm going to go do my thing, and that's great. I've often just picked up a book and run with it before, then go with the book. If you've already got the book and you think, oh, I want to do more of this stuff, I would actually look at some of the other courses that like kind of dive deeper. So there is, for example, the relapse diagnostic. Like for instance, if you had the book, but then you're like, I just kind of keep going back to the compulsions and stuff like that, then I would do something like the relapse diagnostic course. If you have the book, I'd be curious about what challenges you notice to applying the skills in it. What's getting in the way of turning the concepts and the exercises in the book into the actions you want to do in life? If you've already got the book, then I would be hesitant to go for the course. And I would be, curious just about what are the specific things that are challenging. Yeah. So yeah, let me know if you have any other questions about that. Yeah, if you want to post them under the video after, or reach out wherever is convenient. You can always send me a message by email. If you go to markfreeman.ca, there's a contact form there. And that just goes straight to my email. Yeah, so I hope that was useful, Cameron. Roshue said, when you referred to shaking hands, you would feel some big, intense feelings, though. Yeah, like absolutely. It would feel like doing a dangerous thing that was going to kill one or both of us. So the value things you do don't really feel like a no, they feel like doing thing. Compulsions felt good, right? Compulsions felt good. And then you said, so it's helpful for you to set those values beforehand. Absolutely. Yeah. We set the value before going into the action because it's going to feel like doing something, the most terrifying thing you've ever done. So it really helps to know the action you're going to do in advance while having the terrifying feeling. Yep. Compulsions felt good and right. Doing the actions we value will feel wrong and terrifying. So that's why we've got to look at how do you do it well? Like that's what I've mentioned before, like how do you make cookies well? So rather than getting caught up in like random thoughts or feelings or whatever, we identify the cookies we want to make. We get a recipe on how to make those cookies well. And then we do those actions. And whatever the brain wants to do, it's welcome to do. That's not going to change the actions we're going to do to make the cookies well. Mr. Macedon Farm. Dylan, you said, thank you for sharing the example about not looking at your map. It's great to remember that we still have the brain even after we have recovered. We can't toss it out completely. No, it'll still be there. And still, like whatever the uncertainty is, because like that's its amazing superpower, right? To go, that's an uncertainty, let's solve it. And it's so good at that. But yeah, we can always, just treat it as like this kid that's hanging out with us. And so the brain's like, are we going the wrong way? Like that kid is like, we see the kid's afraid of going the wrong way. And so we want to show the kid that, no, okay, let's go find out. Maybe it is the wrong way. And we'll be lost forever and stuck somewhere. We can handle that. Let's go have that experience. Deep Navy. So we shouldn't run from emotions or suppress them. So what helps you to release emotions? Oh, can you explain what release emotions means? Billige Witze? How do you pronounce your username? said, I like it's about the action, not the result. How to deal with tiredness on weekends and therefore not taking action, as I always have the feeling to need to chill. When to recover and when not. So actually, I'm really curious about at the end there when you said when to recover and when not. Because I wouldn't see recovery as like, I don't know, are you talking about recovery as in like rest, like physical recovery? Yeah, maybe, yeah, I don't totally, maybe I'll go after, so you mentioned there how to deal with tiredness on weekends. Uh, if we're tired on the weekends, we're going to be tired on the weekends. Something, maybe I'll share it. Maybe this will address what you're asking about recovery. I find it really useful how we approach recovery in physical fitness and rest, in that, yeah, you don't want to wait for a bad thing to happen. You don't want to wait for injury. You don't want to wait for exhaustion. Like if it goes that far, then we've kind of already missed like the opportunity for effective recovery and rest. We want to recover and rest proactively, not waiting for a feeling of like, okay, now I really have to rest. So if you're running into the weekend, where right now the weekend has become like, oh, the weekend is this, just like we crash into the weekend and we're wrecked, and then we're gonna recover. That to me is suggesting we've got to look at what's happening earlier in the week, because this like whatever's happening that you're just crashing into the weekend exhausted, yeah, that's not gonna be so useful, and then you're almost like too tired to like recharge in a way that's nourishing. It's more just like taking care of an injury. We just gotta be like, like I'm destroyed. We just gotta like avoid everything. What is getting you exhausted and tired earlier in the week? And are there changes we can make around that? Are there opportunities to practice resting earlier in the week when it doesn't feel necessary? Learning how to rest proactively when we feel good can actually help us not need to rest as much, because we're not waiting for a big crash and then having to heal. We're proactively resting and regenerating before we need it. So yeah, that could be an interesting kind of maybe perspective shift to explore, and just how we think of recovery and rest. But I'd be most curious about what's happening earlier in the week. RxVN, when you say, I'm curious what you've been through when you wanted to get over the fear of being alone. Yeah, so it helped me to see a lot of compulsions were about the fear of being alone. But I don't understand what your question is about. When you say, what have you been through when you wanted to get over it? Yeah, can you maybe give a more specific example of what you mean there? Andrea said, I've been watching your videos for a while, and I'm reading your book and actively working on values while cutting out compulsions. Andrea, thanks a lot. Thanks for watching and reading the book. I hope you have a lot of fun as you're cutting out the compulsions and just like taking all that time and energy back and giving it to things you actually like really want to be doing in life. So yeah, thank you. OCD Help, thanks for popping in to say hello. Oh, Dylan, he said, I'm surprised you didn't say alpaca. Yeah, alpacas are nice, like mindful animals too. If I was an alpaca, I feel like alpacas already have a very mindful lifestyle up in the Alps. No, I mean up in the Andes, not the Alps. Do they have? I feel like the Alps actually are not high enough for alpacas, but they might have some. Yeah, and being an alpaca in the Andes, that's a good mindful time. Andrea, so how do you suggest we approach when cutting compulsions becomes the compulsion, and mentally reviewing every thought to see if it's a compulsion, trying to do it perfectly? Yeah, so it's great to notice that. This is one of the reasons why I always emphasize the importance of basing mental health and fitness around the things we want to grow. So if you've got my book, I would go back to chapter 1, the very first chapter, when it talks about mental health goals. It explains we don't want to do the mental health goal around getting rid of or subtracting something. Right? That approach of getting rid of and subtracting things, that is the compulsion pattern. And so when we make compulsions a contamination, then we're trying to clean it away perfectly. That's why we want to approach mental fitness as being about the thing we want to grow. So we're not doing it to recover from an illness. We're not doing it to get rid of thoughts and feelings or physical sensations. We're not doing it to subtract something. We're identifying skills and things like that that we want to grow. And so I don't know if you caught it earlier when I mentioned choosing a cookie recipe and doing it well. That's the same concept. So rather than focusing on how do I avoid burnt cookies, we actually look at what's a really delicious cookie I want to make. Not burning it is already going to be part of, it's already going to be baked in to the process. But we're going to give our time and energy to making the delicious cookie instead of avoiding the burnt cookie. Because just because you didn't burn a cookie doesn't mean it's going to be delicious. And just because we've avoided a fear or avoided something bad doesn't mean we're going to create anything good. And so when we're focused on avoiding and cleaning away some bad thing, that is the old approach. Now we're going to give our time and energy to the things we want to create and see in the world. And so that also then helps us drop that compulsion to clean away compulsions. Because that's not our focus anymore. Our focus is on, what do you want to do with life? Where do you want to go? And what are the actions that will take you there? Yog said, any advice on what to do when you ruminate and feel like you literally can't stop? Often I feel like I'm losing my mind because I know I should stop, but it genuinely feels impossible. So this comes up a lot, and what I find really important to look at is how we start. It is so much easier to prevent running off the path, or to prevent, I'll often describe ruminating as machines. And so if we've turned on all the machines in the factory and they're spinning faster and faster and faster, it is understandably difficult to turn them off. It's an important skill to learn. And it'll feel like whiplash, like stepping back on the path, noticing all of this time and energy and momentum we put into spinning in our heads, and then to go, we're going to drop that and get back to what we want to do. Useful skill to learn, feels wild. It's going to be really helpful to not turn on the engines, the machines, the rat wheels spinning in our heads. That, I'd say, is the most beneficial. So it's useful to start to look at, like, how do I get this started? If we're already doing it, I think you mentioned having my book. And so in my book, there's what I call the 2 tricks. And those are in particular to stop engaging with the stuff in our heads. It's so the one I find that's useful if we really notice and we're already spinning on a thing. I can't remember actually right now if I call it, is it the second trick? This is the accepting the feared terrible consequences. If we're already spinning in our heads, what I find most useful is to notice what I'm trying to get control of. So like the example I mentioned before, like if I'm replaying a conversation from yesterday because I want to check to make sure I didn't say something wrong, or that I'm trying to check for reassurance that people like something, etc. So if I notice I'm doing that, then I would do the thing that I mentioned earlier. Notice that, I'm just spinning my wheels on this because I want to get certainty that I'm not going to be hated by everybody and end up alone. So I'm just going to tell my brain, no, like it's already happened. Like it was recorded. I said the most horrible things everywhere. It's going to be all over the news, etc. Nobody is ever going to interact with me ever again. So I don't want to spend my last day being able to interact with people, just spending time in my head doing compulsions. So it's already done. There's nothing to control there. So I don't have to ruminate about it anymore. And I'm going to give my attention to the actually being with people. Maybe I'm going to go somewhere right now. Doesn't matter. It could just be the grocery store. I'm going to talk to the cashier because this is the last time I'll get to talk to anybody. And so that's what I would do there. If we notice we're spinning the wheels, we're trying to get something. So to remove the thing we're trying to get in whatever way it makes the brain shut up. So if the brain's like, oh, we got to get certainty about whatever, I would take that out of the equation. It's already happened. It's gone. That thing we were trying to get and control, it's over. Can't do anything about that anymore. So I don't want to spend my last day on compulsions. I want to give it to things that I actually value. So enjoy stepping away from the machines in the brain. And Helenico, you said the workshop story you shared made me think about planning trips. I often anticipate things that could happen and plan for them. I always considered it a good quality to cultivate, to be prepared. Yeah, we often think of this stuff as good qualities. These are like the normal compulsions. And then, yeah, the brain goes, oh, yeah, like, so we should prepare for all of the uncertainties and have them certain and controlled. But then it becomes distressing when it goes to something like a perfect example there would be like the brain going, okay, so on trips, we always know exactly what's going to happen. And the brain goes, okay, after we die, what's going to happen? And then we may find that difficult to interact with. Yeah, Yog, you mentioned that meditation and mindfulness seem to be the only things that help a bit. Um, they like meditation and mindfulness are the opposite of doing mental compulsions. So absolutely, they can be useful to practice those skills. But again, I'd watch out, like what I mentioned at the beginning. I watch out for the idea of they like a work. They are not a ritual to help us kind of not have obsessions. They are like very practically in an analog way the active I want to say active action. I don't think that's a term. They are they are the action of us not doing mental compulsions. Yeah, look, if we're mindful, we're bringing our brain, inviting it to rest in the present moment and not doing all of that controlling and judging and getting. That spins up the machines. But they're not working. They are just the opposite of it. Oh, Mitchie, you're packing your bags. I hope you have an excellent trip. And Minchie and Jackson as well, thank you for being members here on YouTube. And to all of the members stopping by and joining us today, thank you. I really enjoy making the videos over on the membership channel. It's just like where we can really dig into topics. So yeah, thank you everybody too for your questions and suggestions on videos to make. Yeah, and Jackson, let's get into your question here. You said, have you had experiences with therapists that treat thoughts as the problem? Like my therapist tells me to track when I'm having thoughts. I can't help meeting it with resistance. Yeah, like there's all sorts of modalities. And so, yeah, some modalities will be about rationalizing away thoughts. They'll be about, kind of arguing with thoughts, having different techniques around thoughts and stuff like that. It really is about with therapy or with any other tools we'll find online and things like that, exploring a tool set that is effective for us. Just like there are so many different ways to exercise, and you may say, like some people will be like, you got to exercise this way, you got to exercise this way, and so on. And the reality is, just like we all have different brains, and we all have different bodies, and we all have different environments and contexts and goals. We all have different things we want to work on in life, and so there are going to be different approaches that we're going to find effective. There's going to be different approaches that each of us will get kind of more mileage out of, or that we'll find more useful for the things we want to do in life. Yeah, because for example, in some approaches may take an approach of managing stuff that happens in our heads. And yeah, like, for that goal of like, hey, this is just a thing that you're gonna manage, and here are some tools to manage it, that can seem in some contexts like a useful goal. And then for other people, they're gonna be like, I don't want to manage this stuff. There's all sorts of other things I want to do and want to explore. Then a completely different set of tools can be useful. And it's not so much about whether one's right or wrong, but just, yeah, what are your goals and what skills do you want to learn? And yeah, depending on those skills, then yeah, very similar to, if we're going to the gym to work with like a long distance runner or somebody that does like high intensity training, they're going to be taking different approaches because they have different outcomes in mind. Yeah. So yeah, what is your goal in therapy? What skills do you want to develop? And then, yeah, we can look at what kind of techniques and practices can help with moving towards those goals. Chris said, how to bypass intrusive thoughts. That is not a thing I would be able to help you with. I find it way more useful to give them a hug, to learn how to touch and interact with experiences. Trying to bypass them is the problem that's going to cause more difficulty, because also they are just thoughts. Us like labeling them as intrusive, scary things and then trying to bypass them, like that's going to create all sorts of problems in life. Yeah, what if you instead had a goal of wanting to be capable of interacting with any thought or experience that comes up, and not having to have that kind of push you around or knock you off course in life? Roshue, dang, I thought when you doing a value, like shaking hands, you were feeling good. No. He said, so it's like the same idea that when we practice living, that's going to feel terrifying when we're not answering those big questions. Yeah, absolutely. I'll often describe the experience as driving an out of control truck. And so we feel this intense pressure to stop the truck. And even when I always describe this, right, we're driving the out of control truck and there's no door and the brakes don't work and the steering is weird and we have no seatbelt. You think that just feels so wrong to be driving a truck, yeah, down a hill, it's out of control, you have no seatbelt on and there's no door. And so everything in our body will be telling us to stop and not do this. And we've got to want to win the out of control truck driving championship. Deep Navy said, regarding releasing emotions, yes. He said, intrusive thoughts produce emotions like fear and anxiety. Oh, what could you suggest to calm down and find peace instead of doing a compulsion? Thanks a lot for your book. Oh, well, thank you for reading. So I would consider that so everything like intrusive thoughts. So I would go after that first point. You said intrusive thoughts produce emotions. So I would say no, the compulsions we do around thoughts produce emotions, right? As soon as, because we label them as intrusive. So if we like the thoughts are happening and then we go, that thought's an intruder. And so if we've labeled it as intruder, of course we're gonna feel scared. Like we just said, that's a dangerous thing and it's bad and it shouldn't be here. It's an intruder, but it is here. So how'd the intruder get in? Why is it here? What's it mean? But that is 100% we created that. So we're already doing compulsions. And if we're often think of it as this kind of like thing in the brain that's like just like this label maker. So we're already doing that judging. And so we stick that label on it. This is like toxic, dangerous, radioactive, biological weapons. We're like, that's scary. really, really natural we have that reaction, but that's because we labeled it that way. We can drop that. So that's even why I'd really watch out for the idea of releasing emotions created by compulsions that we're doing. So sure, like if the emotion's there, like yeah, we're gonna have to accept that. We're gonna handle that in whatever way. I'll usually use the example of hitting ourselves in the face with a frying pan. Yeah, there's gonna be pain. So some people might say, well, how do you get rid of the pain? How do you release that? Yeah, like do whatever is useful for the pain. But don't get tripped up into thinking that pain relief is the solution to hitting yourself in the face with a frying pan. The more useful thing to do is going to be to stop hitting ourselves in the face with a frying pan. That's the source of the pain. Would it be okay to have thoughts and not have to label them as intruders, to not have to see them as a threat? If we're not labeling them and judging them as a threat, then we don't have the, oh, that's terrible and dangerous reaction of fear and anxiety. And then we don't have to find more compulsions to get rid of it. Let's put down the frying pans and use the frying pans to make breakfast. Hi, sis. Thank you for being a member here on the YouTube member channel as well. Yeah, can you say how to deal with derealization and depersonalization? This is a big thing for me. Actually, it's great we were talking about the frying pan and the judging. Those depersonalization, derealization, there is a video on my channel on this. They depend on compulsions. So it can help to see that derealization, depersonalization are the outcomes of the compulsions. They're like the pain in our face from hitting ourselves with the frying pan. Because we cannot not be real, and we cannot not be ourselves. And what happens is we're just having a normal feeling of existence, but then we're judging it and we're chasing the certainty. So we start to judge the just regular feeling of being ourselves as a wrong thing. And then we chase compulsions to try to fix it. It's the same as contamination OCD. Because when we're judging ourselves as contaminated, right, that's a delusion. It just feels fine. But we're often going, but I think that feels dirty. I've got to go fix it. And then we just keep judging ourselves as dirty. We keep chasing these compulsions to fix it that only make us feel dirty. Exact same thing with depersonalization and derealization. We judge ourselves as wrong. Then we are chasing a solution to fix it because we were already ourselves and now we're judging it as wrong. We can't fix it because we're teaching the brain that like me is the wrong feeling and I've got to get some other feeling. And so it just creates a cycle of chasing some other real feeling. And it goes and goes and we struggle with it and feel wrong. We can drop those compulsions, both of the compulsions to judge our feelings and the compulsions to chase some real right feeling. What if you don't have to spend any time and energy chasing any kind of right feeling about being you? Whatever feeling is there can be a feeling you want to have while going and practicing being you in your actions. Jets, Jets, you said, I had my towel hanging out for drying, and it had been there for a couple of hours, and had dried by then. Suddenly, I heard a monkey noise, and I had the urge to go out and get my towel. Is it OCD or natural? I would consider OCD to be natural. So that like, is it OCD or natural? I wouldn't find that a useful question. Because, and like this is one of the ways you can see like this is just a very natural thing that humans do. right? Waiting until something possibly goes wrong, then having an uncertainty, then going to fix it. So it's not about like, oh, is this OCD or not? It's about, hey, if you want to get your towels earlier next time, how can you help yourself do that? It's about recognizing that, yeah, often we have a framework for life that is just about waiting for a bad thing to happen to then go, oh no, a bad thing might happen, and then we try to fix it. So, if you want to work on mental health and fitness skills, it's not about like, oh, is this OCD or natural? Right? It's more about, hey, like, what do I want to learn how to handle? And so, if, for instance, you want to learn how to handle, like, maybe a bad thing's happened, I don't know, I'm not going to go check it, like just teaching your brain, hey, we don't chase that stuff anymore, then yeah, when a situation like that pops up, right? If that was me, I'd notice that, ooh, maybe the monkey's got it. And I'd be like, ah, so in the future, I am going to go and get the laundry sooner. Because maybe I noticed, oh, actually, I was procrastinating. I thought about it. Oh, like I could go get the laundry now, but I don't feel like it. And then I waited until something was like, ooh, now I'm scared. I should get it. So I would see that's a pattern that I'm cutting out. So then I would say, and I'd do this a lot with things. I'd say to everybody, oh, see, Brandon, I told you we should have gone before, and you wanted to procrastinate. Now I'm not going to go get it. I hope the monkeys enjoy that towel. Because, yeah, it's like that little monkey in Japan that was hugging the orangutan. Like, yeah, maybe the monkey needed a friend and the towel is its friend. So then I let it go. And then I look at how in the future can I get proactive and get ahead of that. So yeah, it's like this is all natural stuff. We are just learning new skills. Like we're learning, it's not about fixing something, but saying like, hey, do you want to get good at having uncertainty in life? Do you want to get good at instead of waiting for a problem? And yeah, if you want to get good at doing things proactively instead of waiting for a problem, yeah, that's a thing you can do. Biestada, yeah, I didn't understand your question there. Yeah, like it makes if we're going on a road trip, yeah, like it seems like bringing along things that have a good road trip, like that would just be part of it. Yeah, I guess I don't follow the like if you're seeing when you say this, they're a happy medium. I don't see the conflict or the contradiction there. Andrea, you said, are you planning any workshops in Europe this year? I would love to attend one. You know what? There will probably be a workshop, but what there is, we are doing for the mental fitness Discord server. Actually, I don't have a link to the mental fitness Discord server in the description today. I don't know, Dylan, if Dylan, can you share a link, an invite link to the mental fitness Discord server? People can apply to join a wonderful community. We just had our 1,000th member join, I think yesterday or today, depending on which time zone you're in. And there will be a mental fitness Discord server meetup happening in Amsterdam this coming autumn in October. I think we'll consistently, so far we've been doing pretty good at not only having workshops, but then doing meetups as well for the community. I'd love for us to continue doing that. Because I'll be in Europe for the meetup, I'll probably also do a workshop. But whether it'll be in person or I'll do it online, just in Europe time zones, we'll have to see. But definitely, I'll be back in Europe this autumn to do some at least one community event. And so, yeah, if anybody might be interested in that, we'll be sharing about that on the Mental Fitness Discord server. So feel free to apply. And then we may see you in Europe. Dylan, thank you so much for sharing the link there. Oh, deepening ability. Yeah, you said what benefits do members get and how to become one. Yeah, you can. So to become one, you'd go to like youtube.com/everybodyhasabrain/join. Yeah, it's just here on YouTube, and it's a channel. So there are three tiers. So the first one, there are text posts that I make, and that's accessible to everybody. And then the next tier is the donut level, and so then there's videos. So I make videos on yeah, kind of more in-depth topics, or like really specific to working on cutting out compulsions and things like that. So they're shorts, so around 3 minutes long. Excuse me, and they are. I think it's one of the benefits of having a members channel that everybody is there because they're working on skills. So they're not the kind of videos kind of for like a mass market on Instagram or even YouTube public video. They're really about getting into some of the practicalities of making changes and things like that. And then there is another tier of video too, which is like longer form videos, just like specific to a question that people in that tier have. Yeah. So yeah, members, it's like a kind of online, kind of asynchronous, video-based mental health and fitness course that spans, like, now there's gotta be, I don't even know how many videos there are in the members channel. So there's also, when you become a member, you get all of the backlog of videos and text posts for, I think, over a year now. Yeah. CS1600 said, I'm in the UK. I had a year of CBT 10 years ago. My NHS psychologist recommended you. Oh, I appreciate them recommending that 10 years ago. Yeah, Deep Navy Blue. It is indeed us who are bothering the thoughts. Oh, Jackson, you said, have you ever done a workshop in Ottawa? I have not done a workshop in Ottawa, but also I'll be coming to Canada after the event in Europe. So there was some people have already asked in Canada if we might do a community meetup. So that, yeah, definitely doing some workshops in Canada would be fantastic. And Liz, thank you for being a member, and Ignacio, thank you for being a member here on YouTube as well. Oh, and Ignacio just wanted to share, hi, Mark and community. Hope you all have a great day. Hey, thank you. You too. I hope you're enjoying the weekend. And Liz said, how do I know if my intrusive thought about my relationship is intrusive or real? My brain keeps telling me he's not right for me, but I can't find any evidence that this is actually the case. Yeah, so I just wouldn't see that, like, I don't know what we would call that, the choice, let's say, right now is between intrusive or real. Like a thought is intrusive if we judge it as like a thing that shouldn't be there. Right? We're labeling it as an intruder, like, this is wrong, I don't want this to be there. If we're having random thoughts pop up in relationships and just going, like, this is the wrong relationship. There's a couple things I look at. One of the things I look at is, has this happened a lot before? Like, is this a thing the brain does? Because then it really helps us see, okay, I'm gonna get into this relationship, or I'm gonna go dating or whatever, and my brain is this friend, call them a friend in quotations, and I know that every time I introduce a new partner to my friend brain, they just tell me why they're wrong. Every time. The brain just goes, like, I don't even have any evidence, but I know they're wrong. And so if we see that, then we just start to learn, okay, this is a thing my brain does all the time. So I don't have to keep putting this information on some kind of pedestal. I don't have to keep attaching meaning to this, because this is the thing my brain does. So there's things like that. It's often the case, or if we've noticed that this is a thing the brain does on lots of things. Anytime I take on a job, anytime there's something new that happens, anytime I might try new food, anytime I move to a new place, my brain is always like, this is terrible, this is the worst thing ever, we gotta get out of here, let's go back to the old way of doing things. So yeah, there's that. Like, we start to learn about the brain. So does the brain do this a lot? Then the other thing we look at is kind of what you were getting at there, around like evidence. If we've had a practice of making decisions based on stuff the brain throws up, and we've seen that in like multiple areas that doesn't like work out for us, right? So if we've seen, for instance, that we're struggling with something, we might like label as OCD or something like that. Well, that's often the case of where we've been making lots of decisions based on stuff the brain throws up, and then it takes us to a place we don't like. But initially, it seemed good, like, oh, my brain says I shouldn't do this, or my brain says I should do this. And then we do it or don't do it, and we're like, oh, that sucked. We start to see, again, yeah, maybe listening to the friend brain, not so useful. So, how are we going to start to make decisions that are useful to us if we're not going to be doing it based on checking with our brains? And so, yeah, that like is the area where we look at the recipe for the good cookie, like, and how do we make a cookie well? So getting into objective criteria that we can use when we know our brain is going to throw up stuff that's not useful to us. So yeah, that could be an area to explore. Like, yeah, what are the criteria? And even you say like if we removed this like friend brain from the equation, like, how would we know if we're taking steps in a useful direction? How would you know if you're making like the good cookie you're going to enjoy later? What's the criteria for that? Stuff that we can really see. And then sometimes, yeah, it's up to us to help the brain. Yeah, because the brain will just be like, what are you doing? We've got to get out of here. But in so many ways, when we've been struggling with it, we can see that takes us to places that aren't always useful. And so, yeah, and always with relationships, I always suggest people like to talk to friends and family too, because friends and family can be, and so also we're saying like, do they have, good experience with relationships and cultivating relationships? And if they do, then yeah, being able to share with people and, you know, take advice on, what they can see as being beneficial or not beneficial can be useful. So yeah, we also don't have to do this alone. So yeah, I hope Liz, yeah, even though the friend brain can be annoying sometimes, I hope you find some ways to take it on some steps forward. Roshwe said, I used to think, are we gonna figure out the meaning before we start living? I guess I gotta learn how to drive the truck. Might be sobbing while doing it. But even that, if you feel like you've got to sob while doing it, that's an opportunity to go, oh, like, I'm driving this out of control truck and I'm driving it well. Isn't this amazing? Like, why does it feel like an experience to sob about? You're doing something amazing and living your life, which is the things you want to do. So, can we celebrate that? And Dylan, I just want to say, Dylan, thank you so much for the like super generous donation and taking care of moderating the chat today, then I really appreciate it. It's good to be back together doing the live streams after almost a whole, or definitely a whole month off. But Dylan, thank you so much for the really generous donation and everything you share with the community. I really appreciate it. Thank you. I see. Well, I jumped down to Dylan. Also, Dylan is a great emoji of a brain and a bicep curl. I see that Liz has commented on what we were just talking about in relationships. Liz said, yes, it does this in every relationship. So the brain, yeah, if the brain friend shows up, it's every relationship, this is bad, you got to end it. I find it useful in that situation to say the brain's fired then. And then we said, yeah, like, okay, so I can't use the brain here, but it's still useful for me to find ways to make decisions in these situations. So yeah, how are we gonna do it without the brain? Oh, and Karen, thank you so much for being a member here on YouTube, and yeah, you're also participating over in the Mental Fitness Discord server. And Karen pointed out the community is great over there. They are indeed. Deep Navy Blue. So, do you have any suggestions on treating religious OCD and the fear of God? Uh, it won't differentiate from any other kind of uncertainty or fear that comes up. So when you're asking about it specifically, I'd be curious about what you see as the difficulty or specific challenge with cutting out the compulsions and having the uncertainty. Whatever the fear is, it's still always going to be this bad thing where we go, oh, there could be a bad thing. There's uncertainty about a bad thing, and then we end up doing compulsions to control it. So we're gonna cut out the compulsions to control it, and we're gonna have the uncertainty. Right now, what feels terrifying about doing that? Stefan, so when you first recovered from OCD, how frequent were your sessions with your therapist? I had OCD running my world for years now. Yeah, when I was doing therapy, so I only did therapy for 6 months, and I would meet the therapist once per week. And that's because, so just to emphasize with frequency, we have to cut out the compulsions in our everyday lives. We're going to therapy, and we might do some exercises in therapy that can be really fun. But those exercises are going to be to, practice doing things that we're afraid of and not do the compulsions. But we have to keep doing that. You could think of therapy as meeting up with a personal trainer. Yeah, you might do some exercise, so we all know the form and the way of doing it. And so, they can also see like, okay, like, what were some kind of challenges you were running into there? Like they can see whether your form's off or not, give you some corrections. But then you are going to go do the exercises in your everyday life. And that's because they're going to be in your life. If you have a therapist that can come to your home, that can shadow you at work, that can follow you out on dates, then yeah, you might be able to meet more frequently with your therapist and do a whole bunch of exercises in all of those places. But the reality is, even because a lot of compulsions will happen in very intimate situations, we've got to take on the skills ourselves. So, although sometimes it can be useful to have frequent sessions, I personally definitely in favor of fewer, so that we're taking on the skills ourselves. It doesn't mean less work. It's that we have to do the work. And so whatever's going to help make that happen. And so not getting caught up. And I think this is often a challenge. Like I noticed one person, I think it was even just when we were talking about scrupulosity just now. Did they use the term? Yeah. When you're Deep Navy Blue, when you were talking about scrupulosity, you said treating religious OCD, and I think this is one of the ways that our illness approach to mental health has really messed us up. Because we take an illness approach, we talk about treating it, and treating implies the professional is going to get rid of it. Like you're going to do a thing to me, you're going to treat me for this illness. But these are changes that we make. And just recognizing that when we're interacting with therapy, yeah, like it's so useful to go and like learn these skills and go to therapy and have somebody to talk to and maybe talk about things that we have not talked about with anybody else, and tap into that library of experience that we were talking about earlier, that a professional is going to develop through working with so many people on change. But we have to kind of like take the lessons from the library of experience and then go and apply them in our lives, because that's what's going to create the change. Jats, when you say thoughts about the work on hand, are they fine to have? I don't know what that means, but thoughts are fine to have, so that's totally okay. Oh, Deep Navy Blue asks, do members get to ask questions? Yes. YouTube is a bit limited in how to ask questions, but under videos and under the text posts, there's the regular comments. So yeah, absolutely. And you're always welcome. I'd say this for all of the other members here too. Yeah, you don't only have to ask questions about that video topic. Yeah, if you're ever wanting to share like a question about something else to share about it, always feel free to. And so yeah, there's the just regular. It kind of works just like a regular YouTube video, except only members can see it. So yeah, it has the comments and it has likes too, things like that. Oh yeah, and as Dylan shared here, yeah, sometimes I'll put out like a specific call for questions. Yeah. Oh, thanks for sharing that, Dylan. RxVN, yeah, you said, I can't believe you are still alive. Yeah, I'm still alive. We'll wrap up soon. We're almost done all the questions. But yeah, it's been 2 hours and 10 minutes, but this is the first one we've done in like over a month. So there's a lot of brain stuff we've got to go through. Oshway said, good point. I think we can celebrate it, but still terrifying when we're driving that there's no brakes on the truck. Yeah, but that's why we go. This is the world championship of out of control truck driving. So we want to be driving an out of control truck. If you were driving a truck that wasn't out of control, you could not compete in the world championships of out of control truck driving. And there you go. So, and then you ask, what helped you celebrate? And that's that. We were talking about the procrastination pattern earlier. This idea that there's a thing that's going to help me do the thing. You do the thing. So yeah, celebrate doing the thing. Like rather than go, oh, there's going to be this thing that's going to give me a good feeling, and then I'm going to celebrate. No, like it's going to be way more useful to explore celebrating, liking, wanting with the things the way they are right now. Not needing to do some ritual to change it to then give ourselves permission to do the thing that's useful. Legaspi said, I got up early to wash my car. Watching this live stream, I'm already feeling less anxiety and OCD. Thank you. I hope your car is all pristine and washed and glittering in the morning sun now. Thanks for listening. Okay, Oxvian, you said, so I told you that I'm curious about what actions have you done to get over the fear of being alone. And I told you this because I shared one of the exercises I did when I wanted to get over the fear. So this is why I asked. So one of the things, it will maybe seem very obvious, but it's also like to do things alone. But specifically when I would notice the brain going, oh, you have to like do this with somebody, or you can't do this because you're alone. And so you look at the framework of rules that the brain has kind of learned or picked up around being alone and what it believes being alone means. And then you just break the rules. And so that's lots of fun. Looking at all of the things we might be doing to try to check and control around that kind of stuff. Like even if it is something like dating where we're like, oh, I've got to go do all of this dating because I can't be alone. And even like the stories we're telling ourselves around stuff like that. Like a lot of the fear will be based on unhelpful beliefs and stories we're telling ourselves that just don't have to have any basis in reality. And so also starting to look at those stories and question like, why have I picked this up? Why do I believe this? Maybe it's not useful to me. And then we can explore other stories that might be more useful to us. Also, I would say, and this is kind of a thing that's missed, and even maybe I made an Instagram reel the other day related to this because I would see lately I've noticed there's a trend. It's not really a meme. It's just like a trend around making videos about going alone and doing solo travel. But so I would say, as somebody who has been solo traveling full time for the past 4 years, and had done a bunch of solo travel before that, just in trips. Like, you can't solo travel. There's like billions of people in the world. You're never alone. Like, the idea of being alone is also this weird like fear and myth we really get stuck on. It's so enjoyable to go and build community and do things with community. So I think my approach to other people also really changed. So actually being much more comfortable doing things alone and breaking that framework of rules around being alone. So like now I'm perfectly happy being alone, also leads to spending much more time with people and doing much more things with people. And so, yeah, the like our whole set of framework, often we struggle with the fear of being alone, where everything around it is like unhelpful and wrong. So also, as you're exploring being alone, not thinking that has to mean spending time alone. If we're afraid of being alone, it's probably because we really like people. And so spending time with people, like, you're probably going to change the way you spend time with people, because it's no longer about getting stuff. And when we're focused on relationships to get things, we tend to focus on just kind of all the wrong stuff with relationships, and discount or avoid and push away anything that isn't going to help us get whatever it is we think we need to get to not be alone. And that leads to us being alone. So, yeah, how you approach interactions and being with people is probably one of the big things that'll change too. And I just bring that up because that will present a whole bunch of different opportunities for exercises. So if there might have been something, say for example, somebody's really focused on, when they think of being alone, they're like, I've got to find a partner. And so an opportunity comes up to do some kind of social event with other people. And something I would have done in the past, I would have gone, oh, but I'm not going to want to, like, I don't want to meet, I'm not going to meet anybody there to date or whatever. I'm not going to like start a relationship there or something. So I'm not going to go. Or I'm just going to go with that idea in my head. So I don't really want to talk to anybody or whatever. And like, that is the perfect example of where the grasping and chasing and getting actually interferes with us building connections and community. So our whole framework around how we build connections and community can change. Yeah. So enjoy it. Maybe spending some time connecting and building a community in ways you might not have thought of doing it in the past. Jats. So on this topic, thoughts coming up while you're doing work. So he said, like, you're doing work at hand, and a thought comes like you should do it this way or the other way. Then I get confused if I should act on it, or is this an intrusive thought? Yeah, like, we have thoughts, and so that's why it's really useful to set an intention and set values around an action. Like, it's the perfect application of the cookie example I was sharing earlier. We're going to follow the recipe. Well, we're following the recipe. The brain may be like, what if we did this? What if we did that? We're like, that's great, brain. But like, we're going to follow the recipe. So we set the intention and we follow it. Yeah. And the brain will throw up stuff. Bagel, bagel, bagel. Good morning to you. Enjoy your coffee. And the vegan sausage and biscuits, when it comes out of the oven, that sounds delicious. Enjoy that. I would love some vegan biscuits, vegan sausage and biscuits, and vegan biscuits. Indeed, we can take the brain along for the ride. Oh, RxVN, I see you sharing you're going to the supermarket without washing and still chatting with people without checking if you smell. And you're wondering if those, no, so sure, I had compulsions around fears of smells and things like that too. But I find it really useful to look at what we value doing, like rather than going, oh, there's a fear, so I'm gonna go do a thing. Right, like you see in like an exercise like that, like I would see that as just like kind of like focused, like based around the fear. And so where I might do it differently, yeah, if I noticed I was going to an event and then my brain was like, ooh, we're going to an event right now. You better check if you smell or not. And be like, no, like I'm not gonna check, and I'm gonna make sure I go and talk to people right away. So I'm not gonna like be hesitant until I have some certainty. So I would look instead just at like building up the things that we value doing. That will create on its own just the opportunities for those uncertainties around the things we fear. But I didn't necessarily put the fear as like, okay, I'm just going to go do the feared thing and kind of like poke it. I found it was more useful to keep the exercises built around the things I wanted to keep in my life. That was still, yeah, and still involved cutting out the compulsions. And that brings us to the end of the questions, 2 hours and 21 minutes. Everybody, thank you so much for being here after a month away. It was good to spend time together. I hope with whatever is happening in the world in the weeks ahead, you can give time and energy to building and growing things that we want to see in the world that are useful to you and to those around you in the world. Thank you so much to everybody who joined. Thank you, Dylan. Thank you so much for moderating, and thank you so much for the generous donation. Members, thank you as well for your generous donations each month. I really appreciate it. It helps with doing this work. And thank you for participating. So it's great to see you all. I look forward to making more videos and continuing the discussions and the growth around the skills we want to keep in our lives. So thank you so much, everybody. We'll be back here in 2 weeks. So on the, I believe it's the 15th. Yeah, because today is March 1st. So yeah, on March 1st, or March 15th, we'll be back. Until then, enjoy driving the out of control truck while having a human brain. Take care of yourselves out there.